Hello and welcome to Monday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport with me, Daniel Caw, and the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
Hello, Daniel.
I know you love those
How's
intros.
things?
I'm good, thanks. Plenty to talk about after another action-packed week in the Premiership, Keith. But I think the best place for us to start is Ibrox with Rangers, because when we went off here last night, Rangers were still to play St Johnstone, of course. A 2-0 victory for Rangers, which they badly needed. But not the greatest performance, I think it's fair to say.
Well, I don't think maybe the kick-off time helped anything either. 8 o'clock on a Sunday, it just felt like this is the end of a really long week.
Yeah.
And Rangers kind of played as if they felt that as well. Really flat. I think we said on the show, Andy Newport predicted 2-0 Rangers, and I said, well, that doesn't really sound like it's going to be the kind of shot in the arm that Rangers need right now. They need something bigger and better and more entertaining and less of a struggle. But that was a bit of a punishment exercise watching that for 90 minutes last night. The kind of stadium was emptying out long before the end, and you couldn't blame the punters for that either. They wanted to get up the road. They'd seen enough. And just everyone just feels like hard work for Rangers right now, doesn't it?
That's the perfect phrase for it.
Yeah, and there's yet still no sign of what it is that Philippe Clement is actually trying to achieve with this team in terms of its style of play, its strategy. It just look like a collection of individuals, and they're kind of hoping that somebody steps up and does something that makes a difference in games. And last night it was Václav Černý that scored 2 really decent goals. I think it was interesting that Hagi set up that he's second with a decisive ball through the lines, and that's often what Rangers have been missing this season. I did say that I think Hagi could have a big role to play. I didn't envisage that he was going to get himself sent off, which was really unfortunate for him, actually. I don't think there was any malice in the tackle, but when you saw it slowed down, it was a red card.
Oh, it was a shocker.
Yeah. He didn't mean it. He certainly. I think his timing was all wrong. So you're kind of looking at that. I think that Hagi could offer them a little bit more finesse in the final third, and a wee bit of creativity. He certainly did supply that ball. Černý finishes it well, but really, that was hard work, wasn't
it? I said to you before we come on here, and I'll say this with the caveat that I do think Philippe Clement's had a lot to deal with that a lot of Rangers managers before him haven't had to deal with. But honestly, it was torture last night. It was really poor, and I don't just direct that at Rangers. St Johnstone as well. They didn't offer too much.
Takes two to tango, doesn't it? But,
exactly.
But the onus is on Rangers, Daniel. Let's get it right. The onus is on Rangers to go out there. The fans have been starved of a good time this season. When you think about it, they've been locked out their house. They've been forced to relocate to Hampden. The performances have not been great. The results have been poor in terms of the big games that really mattered. The Champions League qualifier, the first Old Firm game of the season. They've not had much to get excited about. There really is an onus on Clement and his players to try and give them something, a chink of light, a little bit of hope, a reason for coming back. Because right now, if it looks hard work for the players on the pitch, it's hard work for the fans that are having to sit and watch it, and that are paying a handsome fee to do it as well. I don't know. You kind of get the feeling that Clement really has to make progress rapidly now, because it's a year. By next Tuesday,
that's exactly what I was going to say. Aye, you've written in your column today, Keith, which is still on Record Sport Online, that it is a year at this international break since Clement came in. We've had a big response on social media to that column. A lot of it, Philippe Clement probably won't like to read. I mean, how would you sum up his year? Well, I was going to say we can do that, but do you want to maybe hear from Andy Newport first? He was at the game last night. I spoke to him earlier on today. Why don't we hear what he had to say, and then we'll come back and we'll dive into some of the comments.
Okay.
I think the Rangers fans are going to have to accept that this isn't going to be a season of thrills and excitement. At times, it's going to be mundane. It's going to be a bit drab at times. The team is obviously in such a transitional period. Patience is a watchword from Luke. Come on, he's made that clear. This is a work in progress, and I think Rangers fans are going to have to get used to performances like this. That okay, they get the job done, but there's no great style or panache to it. It's just workmanlike is maybe the word. Until Rangers can get the level of quality in that are going to be needed to really put on a show, then you're just going to get what you saw last night.
See, that's the thing that I'm not having a go at Philip Clement. I think he's had a lot to deal with. I think more than most Rangers managers have to deal with, and he kind of said himself that he didn't really expect. He touched them in the summer that I didn't really expect to be dealing with some of these issues. But Rangers are a brutal watch at times. I mean, that might be going a wee bit too far, but
I mean, like last night there was, it's funny, just like you don't really seem to have a performance where all 11 players are absolutely bang at it. I mean, early part of the season, Cyril Dessers, and obviously he does take a bit of stick from critics like me at times, from punters, from pundits. But he had one last night. He was pretty much really off it. But then again, I'm thinking back to match reports I wrote at the start of the season where, if it weren't for him and the goals he scored in those early parts of the season, then this season would already be a lot bleaker than it is now. So, last night it was Václav Černy's turn to sort of turn it on and really respond to his critics. I've already filled a bit for today's paper. I think we've got the press conference from last night on the Record Sports online channels, but you can see him just sort of talking about the sort of tough period he's had. I mean, he came in, he started so well against Motherwell, looked like he was going to be had some real quality to his team, and then since then has really struggled to sort of hit those heights. But fair play to him last night. He obviously had those big misses in the Europa League against Malmo, against Leon. Leon won, which was really costly, just in the sense that it was 9 minutes in, 0-0, and then from that, he failed to take that empty net, and then after that, Leon went on to sort of dominate and won comfortably 4-1. So he was under a bit of pressure. I was actually surprised they got a start last night, but fair play to him. He comes up with two really good goals, really good finishes, especially the first one.
Brilliant. The first one was a brilliant goal.
Yeah, and so that added his critics, and he came out and he spoke about that after the game. Basically like saying, listen, I think players do get that at times. Fans accuse them of not caring as much, and he was trying to make the point. Of course, he cares. Just obviously he's moved to a new country. I asked him about the transition. I'll move to a new city, new way of working, new culture. And to be fair to me, he wasn't trying to make an excuse of that, but he knows he has to do better. He said sleepless nights, sort of worrying about, especially that Leon goal, Leon chance that he missed. So I think he has taken that one into consideration, and really wanted to set about and improve himself. The support, he obviously had the backing of the manager, Philippe Clement, sat him down. I think it must have been Friday or Saturday, and just chatted through how he was feeling, reassured him that he still had his confidence, and I think you saw a wee bit of that come through at the weekend there. So, fair play to him for answering his critics and coming up with the kind of response. That's what Rangers need more of. They need more guys who, if they have a bad day, to come out and just have that bit about their teeth just to get in and really sort of responding and put on a show. And the more they have of that kind of display from Václav Černý, the better they'll be.
You mentioned Dessers there, and look, we both know that social media is sometimes an unreliable yardstick, but as you say, the punters overnight have definitely been giving Dessers a bit of stick for his performance, and I think the kind of general mood is that they could rely on him to do it against teams like St Johnstone at home, with all due respect to them. Last night, obviously, it didn't really come together. But again, sort of in defence of Clement, he doesn't really have any other option at the moment. He's got Igamani, who can, still quite raw. Danilo's injured. What else does he do? Who else is there, really?
Well, I mean, he has no other choice, and as you mentioned, Agamani there, I mean, he obviously started against, I think it was Hibs he started against last week, and really didn't really take part in the game, wasn't a major feature. So, I mean, the only hope is that they can get Danilo back. He was asked about Danilo last night after the game, hoping to have him back at the sort of the far side of the international break. So, but again, as we know with Luke Clement, he'll not be rushed back in. He'll be dripped in bit by bit, hoping that he can get up to speed quick. So, but they definitely need another option up there, because when Cyril Dessers is playing well, I mean, we've spoken about just how one of his great strengths is his sort of mental resilience. You know, when he has a bad miss, when he misses a bad pass, he seems to shake it off. That really wasn't the case last night, and he cut a bit of a frustrated figure when he got taken off with about half an hour left. He sort of trudged over to the dugout and sort of slumped down in a bit of a sulk.
I had a wee mini strop, didn't he?
Yeah, so I think I'll say it was a bad night in the office for him. He didn't play well at all. But I think they definitely could do with somebody else just to take a bit of that burden off him, because in the day it was him. He was the only guy scoring goals in the first couple of weeks of the season. So they could do with an Agamani, find a bit of form. He's now had 5-6 appearances now off the bench. Still to get that goal, I think getting a goal for him would be key, and getting Danilo back to fitness would be a big one as well.
I think you've actually hit the nail on the head with Agamani. He's got a really nice touch at times. You can kind of see flashes of why he was, bought. But the way you said it there, games just sort of passing by. It's like he doesn't quite take part. He's a weird one.
I mean, he obviously started well against Dundee United, but I mean, again, the excitement levels seem to just be a wee bit over the top with that one, and I think that's just the mood amongst the supporters. They're crying out. They're desperate for a hero, somebody, anybody to be this talisman for them that can give them that bit of hope, that bit of excitement, and they leapt in him, and then that puts pressure on him to become this player that he's not quite ready to be yet. And again, I can understand where you go, well, you spent £2 million on the guy, so the fans should have a right to be have expectations there, but he, like a lot of the guys, is still to sort of really find his best form. So it'll be interesting to see another couple of weeks training with the squad, training with Clement, what sort of shape he's in after the international break. And
just finally, Andy, before I let you go, Janis Hagi made it back onto the pitch. We talked about him beforehand. It was an eventful half an hour. There's no doubt it was a red card, but it's, and thankfully there was no serious injury off the back of it. But I feel bad for him, I suppose what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, it was a rusty, this one. He's not played for Rangers for 13 months. He's not really played bar a couple of cameos for Romania this season. So just like his timing was fractionally off. But again, the frustration will be you saw the impact he had when he came on. I think that's what something Rangers have really liked. Somebody who is prepared to play those penetrating passes, those passes that break the lines. That his first instinct when he got the ball was to have a look up. He sees, I think it was Černý who plays it into him. Černý, ironically, gets another sort of semi-jeer as he's picking up the ball, sort of reminiscent of that incident last week against Hibs where he sort of bit back at them, but the jeers were quickly shoved back down the throats of supporters because his decision was vindicated. He plays it to Hagi, makes a run in, and Hagi with a pinpoint pass zips it into his feet, leaving him one-on-one with the defender. He manages to get past him, finishes in his right foot, so it's a terrific goal as well, just as impressive as the first one. But again, that'll be the frustration. Now you're looking at, I think it'll be the Aberdeen game at Pittodrie, October the 30th, before Janis is able to play. He's obviously got a 2-match ban coming up for his red card. He's not eligible for the Europa League game against Steaua Bucharest on the 24th. So, he's 3-4 months out and of this Rangers team, and now he's getting another 3 weeks to sort of kick his heels in the sidelines. It's just frustrating, but again, I think Clement was right. It was clumsy rather than malicious or deliberate. It was just a guy that's a wee bit rusty.
Record Sports' Andy Newport there, who was at Ibrox last night for the game. Right, Keith, as I mentioned beforehand, your column on Philippe Clement's style and his 1 year in charge at Rangers. It's still online. It's definitely worth a read if you're a Rangers fan. All of these comments, Keith, are in direct response on Record Sports social media channels. Let me throw a few your way. Drew McMaster, Clement must go. No wins against Celtic. Crashed out Champions League qualifiers. For so long, too arrogant to recall Hagi for needed creativity. Worse win rate than Beale. John Barber isn't holding back either. He says, another crap performance at home again. This is the worst Rangers team ever. Even Beale had a better record. Get a grip and get shot of all these diddies. Alan Milligan, Rangers proved yet again they're in badly need of a couple of decent strikers. Dessers and Igamani are not up to the task. And this again falls on Clement. Brian Thompson simply says Clement is simply not the man for Rangers. Pretty damning, Keith.
Yeah, well, they're running out of patience, and you know that's why I wrote the thing. It's a year now. You've got a year to judge him on. And at first he came in and he kind of went back to basics in a way, sorted out Michael Beale's team by just doing the fundamentals right. But there wasn't any. I mean, you could actually make an argument that Michael Beale had more of a defined style of play than Clement has. Granted, it wasn't a very good one, but you could at least see what it was he was trying to do.
Aye, it might not have always worked, but you could see.
You see what it was, yeah. You see what he wanted it to look like. I scratch my head thinking you've now had a year with the majority of these players on the training ground. There should be something that the Rangers fans can identify with at this stage. And there's not. They're just kind of they sort of look like they're winging it from game to game. Now that'd be fine if they get a bit of momentum and if the individuals step up, as Andy was saying there. You know, Černý did that last night. But you're looking for a bit more than just one guy popping up with a couple of goals every now and then. You're looking for them to sparkle. You're looking for the talent and the creative last third of the pitch to grab games by the scruff of the neck, and really, get at defences and get on the front foot and just do more. Bayrami looks like he's a talented guy. Again, floated in and out of that game last night. Hagi comes on, good pass. Černý scored a couple. Dessers just had another big Dessers night, didn't he? And they're all too frequent. That's becoming the norm, unfortunately, for Cyril Dessers. I like him, and I think comes across a lovely big guy, and he obviously works very hard. There's no questioning his commitment or his effort. It's just unfortunately his ability that's the problem. And I think that's another thing I was talking about in my column, that if you're going to have this style of play, and I think what he's trying to get is the ball's played sharper, faster, up to the front three from midfield. And I've seen flashes, you see it in bits, where Conor Barron and Mohamed Diamondi, they're getting it. You can just see that it's just a little bit quicker than it was previously last season when they ended the season. It was pretty laborious stuff. I've seen signs that these two are looking to do that, to break through teams earlier, to get balls rattled up into the feet of the front players. When it gets up there, you need somebody to do something with it. Now, I was cutting Clement a little bit slack, thinking he's got new guys that are coming into this system up at the top. Individually, if they improve what was there previously, then the team might look a bit better. Černy's couple of goals last night, maybe that is the answer. Maybe that is what Rangers will end up looking like. But the main problem they've got is that a lot of the time the focal point is going to be the centre forward, and if the centre forward can't get the ball under control, hold it up, link with teammates, then the system falls down. And unfortunately for Cyril Dessers, too often the ball bounces off him like it's a brick wall, and that is a problem. But again, that one comes back in Clement as well, because he's been working with the guy all this time. He has to see that.
Yeah,
he's had opportunities to in the transfer window to do something about it, and he's failed on that front too, because Igamani is the only fit option right now, and as I said in my piece, he's as raw as a pound of Moroccan mince. So
Here's one for you. Well, Robert, watching live on YouTube, simply says, how much more Rangers are we going to have to listen to? Robert, we are going to move on in just a second. Before we do, you pose what I thought was a very interesting question in your column, Keith. It says, this is obviously, you know what it says, you wrote it. Does he really believe his side, him being Clement, his side are serious contenders for this season's title, or would he be satisfied to see this burgeoning threat from the North East and settle for a solid second place finish instead? If you're Philip Clement right now, would you take second?
I don't know. You're asking me to get inside his head. I don't know where his head's at. I don't know where his team's at, and I don't know where his head's at. There is an argument that some people might accept that, you know what, transitional season, solidify, bolt down second place, and then try and build again over the transfer windows, and then the coming season after that. That attitude seldom fits in this part of the world. So if he is thinking that, it's not a good career move for him, because it just won't work. It just won't be given that amount of patience and that amount of leeway. He's got Aberdeen to catch and to start trying to crawl back in, or claw back in. And that's why you're wondering, you know, is he thinking, well, if Aberdeen get beat by Celtic, well, you know, we can close the gap on them by 3 points that weekend if Rangers win at Kilmarnock. That's not the way he should be thinking. A Rangers manager should be looking at that and hoping Aberdeen can go and do some damage.
Yeah.
But does he really believe that this squad is capable of contending for a title? Or is he looking over his shoulder at Aberdeen thinking, oh, it's not even over his shoulder, there's miles out in front of him just now. So is he looking at that thinking, right, first target is get them out the road? Who knows? I don't know is the answer.
Well, on that, Robert on Facebook says, do you honestly think Aberdeen can sustain a title challenge? Also, do you think they can beat Celtic a week on Saturday? See, before we get into that Aberdeen stuff, Keith, one thing that is doing my head in, we are now in an international break, the second of the season, and we played 7 games.
I know.
That just seems obscene. Like, why?
I know. And you know something, there was a period where you were actually quite looking forward to the Scotland games because we were on a high, and every time every time the boys pulled on a dark blue shirt, they went out and scalped somebody, and it was all good fun and a pleasant distraction. But right now, it just feels, and this is often the case, it just feels like a distraction. It's getting in the way, and the domestic season isn't getting the chance to build the momentum. Yeah. And I get you there. It can become a frustration.
The other thing that's doing my head in as well is that, going back to Robert's point, Aberdeen Celtic a week on Saturday or Sunday? Saturday, I think.
Saturday.
Any other league in Europe, that'd be the game in the telly. That'd be, you know, your highlight blockbuster game.
I get all that, but here 2 things. First of all, the TV schedulers were in need of a crystal ball at the start of the season to realise that that's Aberdeen were going to be taking 21 points from 21. Nobody thought that. Nobody would have thought at the start of the season that Aberdeen are going to go at Celtic Park on that day, level with Celtic at the top of the table. So there's the first problem. The second problem is an age-old one, is that Celtic don't want to sell that many of their home games to the TV companies, and it's the same with Rangers. And until such times as they have a change of mind on that, then it's very rare, other than the Old Firm matches, it's very rare to get a live game out of either Celtic Park or Ibrox. That's just part of the package. They're not willing to give it up because they think it'll affect season ticket sales.
Just on Aberdeen, while we're on it, I mean, there's not a lot more we can say. We talked about it last night. I mean, Stephen Mulhern chimes in here saying, how refreshing was it for Dons fans chanting, bring on Celtic, we're going to win the league. And with Jimmy Thelin saying they won't change their style of play against Celtic. He does say, though, word of warning, though, Jimmy, remember Brendan Rodgers said something similar when he went up against another Champions League team, and the rest is history. Which is a fair point, I think, Keith. But
it is a fair point.
Aberdeen are capable of beating Celtic a week on Saturday. That's definitely true, I'd say.
again, this is the great imponderable where Aberdeen are concerned. You know, people have said, and I think it's a little bit unfair, that they've not really been tested. They have been tested. They're tested every time they're going out on the pitch. They've just passed every test with flying colours. But this is a whole new level of test. Going to Celtic Park, to face a Celtic side that will have paid attention to the fact that they've kept pace with them. So you're looking at a packed out Parkhead with a big atmosphere because it feels like a big game, and a bunch of Celtic players who are by far and away the best group of players in the country, and they're going to be highly motivated because this lot want to nick our crown. So, you know, this is a new level of test for Aberdeen, and that's what's going to be really fascinating. I'm interested to know, because we haven't had the yardstick yet. This provides the yardstick. Where are they? How good are they? And are they capable of really trading punches with Celtic at the top end of this league? They've made a fantastic start to it. We're going to find out so much more when we see that game. That's when you get your evidence.
Graham Baird on Facebook kind of chimes in saying some real world-class teams there, not, and he's referring to the list of 13 teams that Aberdeen have beaten in a row. Yeah. The usual lie down to Celtic in their next game is coming up. And like you say, Keith, until Aberdeen go and beat Celtic and Rangers, they're going to have to face comments like that, really. I think it'll be a game. It'll be a cracking game, though.
But again, there's nothing that Aberdeen should do to worry about that. It's not their fault. They didn't draw up the fixture list. They've had to just beat what's been put in front of them, and they have done it over and over and over again. And there is now some serious momentum building. Right. So yeah, I mean they will come down the road full of confidence. But it's interesting that one of the comments there was absolutely correct. Celtic went to Dortmund feeling full of confidence. So let's see if it's warranted or not, and let's see. Brendan Rodgers has been accused by people like myself being a bit arrogant or naive in terms of what he was expecting his side to produce when he went to Germany. Well, Jimmy Thelin making much the same sort of noises, so will he stand accused of something similar if Aberdeen go down there and get turned over? But who knows? You just don't know at this point, because we have nothing to measure it against, and we will see. That's why I actually can't wait for that game, because we're going to get a lot of answers to a lot of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to finish in Aberdeen, Robert, again, as a Dons fan, I said to my friends, I felt we had to take 16 or 18 points at the first 6 games. I felt that because we didn't play either half of the Glasgow or Edinburgh teams and Dundee United, that is a fair point. I mean, a lot of those 13 games, Airdrie, Dumbarton, Spartans, Aberdeen should be winning it, but to be fair, there's lots of games in recent years they should have won that they haven't. So
I was just about to say, Aberdeen sides make a habit of inconsistency. Exactly. They make a habit of losing games that they should be winning. They make a habit of dropping points that they shouldn't be dropping, and they make a habit of struggling to get into the top 6. There is nothing that you can say level against Jimmy Thelin right now in terms of, you know, as I said, not his fault that the fixtures come out the computer the way they did. He's just had to deal with these games on a game-by-game basis. And it's immaculate. His record's immaculate.
Yeah. As it's a Monday, Keith, obviously the first day after the Premiership weekend, there's always plenty of contentious decisions being debated online amongst fans. To try and get to the bottom of something today, we caught up with ex-Grade 1 referee Des Roach, and here's what he had to say on some of the big talking points from the weekend.
Des, our resident referee, another busy weekend for your fellow officials. Let's start, if we could, Ross County versus Celtic, because there was some debate over some of the decisions that were made there. First of all, I don't think anybody would be debating the award of a penalty kick for Ross County for Liam Scales' handball.
No, I'd be surprised if anybody was looking for anything otherwise. Yeah, he's clearly outstretched his arm. It's made contact with the ball. As we mentioned earlier, I was quite surprised that it was his far away arm that made the reaction rather than the one closest to him, which would obviously be trying to protect his face at the ball in. But no, there's no mitigating factors there. It was a penalty kick, and it was awarded correctly. And the officials were correct as well to order the retake, because the TV pictures were pretty clear. Kasper Schmeichel was about a yard off his line, wasn't he? Yeah. No, there's nothing contentious about that. Nothing that anybody can complain about. Maybe the Ross County groundsman for the repair work that's going to have to be done at the penalty spot.
Right, and then obviously it culminates, the contest culminates in the end. First of all, Luke McCown is awarded a free kick. Some people, including Don Cowie, saying that award was wrong. It should never have been given. It wasn't a foul. What's your view on that?
I think it was a foul. When you see it slowed down, or not even slowed down, when you see it at the time, the Ross County player attempts to play the ball, but you can see the knees knocking together. He has impeded him. So yeah, I've got no issue with that being a foul. That's exactly what the referee's there for. Don Cowie, I mean, his team's still got another 60 yards to defend, and Callum McGregor showed a lot more guile and intuitive to get that ball moving quickly. It
was just typical quick thinking from McGregor, and I think he caught him in the hole. But by the way, after 90 minutes of the effort, that gargantuan effort that Ross County put into that, you could understand why they were switching off there. But again, it's just Callum McGregor. I think that's right. Whether or not you think the decision's correct, the fact is that Callum McGregor's caught him napping a little bit with that one. Kuhn goes up the park and scores. Celebrates with the fans. Chris Boyd says that he should have been yellow carded for that, and that would have been the second yellow of the afternoon, and a red for Kuhn. Your thoughts, Des?
Well, it's not get into the crowd to celebrate. That is not an automatic yellow card. When we've looked at the way that IFAB have worded it, it's very much down to the referee's discretion and how he feels it. The celebration wasn't excessive. You are allowed to celebrate a goal. That's there. I think a few years ago, people are under the misimpression that people were worried about the crowd coming down, etc. But the wording of the IFAB law says that it is not an automatic yellow card. It wasn't excessive. He returned to the field of play pretty much straight away. It didn't hold up the restart of play. So therefore, it's not necessarily a direct yellow card.
Is that a new directive from IFAB, Des? Because maybe people are guilty of just believing if a player runs to the crowd to celebrate, he gets a yellow card. That was the way of things.
That used to be, as I said, I think it was more of a safety issue that was maybe being brought upon by local police, etc., just to stop this whole swathing and swaying of people down. But the IFAB rule says players can celebrate when a goal is scored, but the celebration must not be excessive. Choreographed celebrations are not encouraged and must not cause excessive time wasting. Leaving the field of play to celebrate a goal is not a cautionable offence, but players should return as soon as possible. If you're using those words, that's exactly what Kuhn done.
Okay, well, that's that cleared up. At Ibrox on Sunday night, Hagi red card, difficult to mount a defence. When you saw it, I didn't actually think it was that bad at the time at full speed, but when you saw it slowed down, where he makes contact on the leg, it's a bad one, isn't it? There's no real defence for him.
No, I think pretty much like yourself, when I first seen it, I wasn't not over the interest. I didn't think there was anything terribly much in it. But when you see it slowed down from another angle, you can see that he's lunged. He's very lucky that the player didn't come with a serious injury there, because you can see where his contact with his studs has made with the foot. I think it's pretty good that Clement has come out and backed up the refereeing decision. I feel sorry for the player. He's obviously on a high to get back in, but I'm sorry, you can't challenge like that.
That's one of them. There's no malicious intent. I don't think anybody's looking at it saying he's trying to do him, or he's just mistimed it, hasn't he? That's you just can't do it. It's endangering an opponent. That's the rule, isn't it?
Yes, a serious foul play at that moment in time.
Right, okay. Now, a couple of the other talking points from the weekend. Dundee v Kelly, incredible game of football. But Big Silla, red card. Now, most people, Des, are struggling with that one to see why he was given a second yellow. But you're not so sure. You think that Silla might have done intentionally backed into Matty Kennedy?
So I've got to admit, for the past day or so, I've been thinking, no, not a chance. How he's trying to win the ball. And I do think he's won the ball. I don't think there is any malicious intent in it. And I've been at loggerheads and odds with other people, because I'm actually backing the Dundee player there. I didn't think it was. I've now started to question it, because I've seen another angle where he does throw his arm out.
And you think he knows Matty Kennedy's there?
I don't know if he's being cute. I'd like to think he wasn't, but the angle that I was shown today, for the first time, put a wee bit of doubts in my head. I've got to say, I put my hands on it first. I didn't think it was a second yellow card. I think it was very stupid to get involved because he'd only been cautioned, a couple of minutes beforehand. But when I seen that sort of angle, it's the first time it's put doubts in my mind, and I can see why Grant Irwin has went for the yellow card, and I wouldn't castigate him for it.
Right, okay. There was another red card in the Hib versus Motherwell match. There is one more incident I want to talk to you about, Cyril Dessers' incident at Ibrox. But in terms of the red card for Triantis of Hibs, 2 bookings again. Second booking, I don't think there's any complaints over. Were you satisfied that it was the right decision to book him in the first instance for diving?
Yeah, I think both yellow cards were absolutely merited. I think it was rather silly and stupid and naive of the player to get involved. And why is he going in for a challenge like that when he's already on a yellow card? So yeah, I've got no issues. I think Triantis was guilty of naivety and stupidity for being involved. What was the dive for as well?
And guilty of cheating.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for that. I think I like to see referees clamp down on that. That was a dive. It was the right thing to do. As Chris Sutton might say, he's better than that. Now, in terms of a penalty that wasn't given, that was at Ibrox on Sunday night as well. Cyril Dessers attacking the back post at a corner kick. His shot's clearly pulled. Why wasn't that one pointed out to the officials? Why did that kind of go unchecked?
I've got no idea. No idea. If the referee has missed it, which David clearly had, because he would have got involved. But that's why VAR's there.
Yeah,
that's your safety net. They're watching, they're observing it. I have no, and I'm not even going to try and give any justification for it. I'm just really surprised that VAR didn't get involved, because we've seen them get involved in the things that are less obvious, less blatant. But that's as clear shot pull as you're ever going to see, and particularly when it's a corner kick and an attacker is looking for a header at a potential goal with opportunity.
Couple of yards out.
Yeah, that's why VAR, in my opinion, that's why VAR should have been getting involved in that one.
As I recall, days at the start, when VAR was first introduced, there was a whole spate of these things where the referees didn't spot a shot getting tugged. I wonder, could this be a deliberate decision to kind of leave the kind of bulk of the responsibility of decision making with the men in the park? That doesn't. I mean, kind of, why bother with VAR at all then?
Yeah.
if that's the idea behind it.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely correct. If you're now saying that and I totally agree. I think that 99.9% of all decisions should come from the on-field official, because they're the one who's got the feel for the game. They're the one who's observing it close by. But if you're bringing in VAR to add to the game, well, you add to the game to get the main and big decisions right. And for me, that was a big decision that should have been called, and they've chosen not to. So it's almost
somebody at Clydesdale House was sleeping or on a tea break or something.
Well, it might have been an electricity shortage at that moment in time.
Des, our resident referee, can't thank you enough for joining us, and we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, no problem at all, guys.
Cheers, Des.
Des Roach there. The only one, Keith, that I think maybe yourself and a lot of Rangers fans on social media would take issue with is that Luke McCowan one, where Des is fairly certain that it's a free kick. You thought it was quite soft, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. It was Conor Randall went into the tackle, didn't he? And
yeah,
I think his momentum almost carried him through, Luke McCowan, because I think he went through 2 challenges almost simultaneously. I didn't know if it was a foul or not. As I said to you, it's not something I would lose any sleep over or argue about, because they're 10 a penny, these sort of decisions. I think what Des said quite rightly is, Celtic had a lot of ground to make up to get up the other end and to score that goal. And it was triggered by Callum McGregor just being so quick in the head to shuttle that ball on to Alistair Johnson. And I think he did catch Ross County's defence snapping. They were on the turn, they were trying to get up the pitch. But it was just a bit of clever thinking from Callum McGregor that set the wheels in motion there.
Before we finish, Keith, I wanted to get your take on something a little bit different for the Hotline Live. Just in some of the goings on down south I sat and watched Brighton versus Spurs yesterday. Spurs 2-0 up at half-time and cruising. They ended up losing 3-2. And after it, Ange Postecoglou was absolutely livid with his players. I don't know what it is. He's a great manager. I know they just won 4 in a row, thumped Man United at Old Trafford. I just don't think that's going to work out, though. Something about Ange's demeanour, the way he screams at the players from the touchline, the way he just accepts no nonsense. I'm not sure a lot of the prima donnas down south are going to put up with it, I guess.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see because he's had a kind of up and down start to this season, and mostly down at the start. He's picked up a little bit of form and results. I admire the way that he's got his team playing, and I think the Spurs fans enjoy it. And I was really curious to see that game because, Brighton defend with a high line, Spurs defend with a high line. You actually thought that this game could be played out within the parameters of the centre circle. So I was really curious to see. I thought there would be goals. I thought it would be exciting. And obviously Spurs 2-0 up, comfortable, should definitely have been more than 2 goals up at half-time. I don't know if they got a bit complacent. You could tell that he was getting angrier and angrier watching it. Listen, he's a kind of straight-talking big guy, isn't he? He doesn't pull his punches when he's talking to his players in the dressing room. I'd imagine he's absolutely went through them like a dose of salts after that. It'll be interesting to see how they respond. Put it this way, the Postecoglou project is worth sticking with for Spurs.
Of course, definitely.
And, let's see. I think that he is very good in terms of his man management, of bringing people with him. And this will be a test because if he has went through them all, if they are prima donnas and they don't fancy it, and they want to put their tools down until a new manager comes along, that can happen. I'll be surprised if it does with Spurs. I just think that was a terrible 45 minutes and also a terrible away strip, which I don't think helped.
I agree with you on that. Don't get me wrong, I think Ange Postecoglou should say I'm not his best mate. I think he's a brilliant manager, top class manager. But I just get the feeling that the more he goes out and says that was unacceptable and goes through them, I don't know, I could just see a lot of players down south chucking the towel in. I guess we'll see.
Maybe, but as I said, if he engineers the same sort of spirit and togetherness that he did, and by the way, he doesn't do that by being a particularly nice guy.
Aye, that's true.
He's not. I mean, people will tell you he would sit in the bus for Celtic going up to a game at Pittodrie or Inverness or whatever. You'd hardly get a word out of him, even his own coaching staff. He just sat there. He's a kind of solitary guy. So it's not like he wins everybody over by giving them cuddles every 2 minutes. He's the opposite of that. But I think he manages to garner a real respect within the walls of his dressing room. And we'll see. You're right. So there might be a few petty lips there, and they might not be all that bothered about going to work for the guy. I don't think that'll be the case. And I also think if he feels that or suspects it in any of them, well, they'll simply not be selected. And somebody that wants to do it will.
Rangers Easy OK says on YouTube, Keith, hope he gets the Pat Mick before we play them at Ibrox in December. Of course, in the Europa League.
Interesting. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Rangers fans that are hoping for that to be the case. Meanwhile, desperately hoping that Erik ten Hag stays on at Manchester United.
when I was young, Keith, Man U was like my English team, and I look at them now, and aye, well, I know I probably was, but they're a shell of what they used to be. It's not a Man United team. 5 goals, they're opening 7 games.
Yeah,
I mean, what's going on?
Shambles.
Shambles is the word for it, aye.
But, and that is, Rangers fans will be looking at it going, well, please, Ten Hag, keep Ten Hag. Keep him hanging around there until Man United face Rangers in the Europa League, because that's the best chance Rangers are going to have of getting some sort of result there, because he can't add this Man United side up to be the sum of its parts. He's having the opposite effect. They're even worse. So in an ideal world for Rangers, I agree, Ten Hag stays in the Man United job and somebody bins off Postecoglou and Spurs get themselves into a mess trying to replace him. That would be the ideal scenario for the Rangers fans. I've got a feeling it might go the opposite way. Ten Hag gets bulleted, Man United get themselves a proper manager, and Postecoglou picks Spurs back up and gets on with it and puts on the sort of performance that the Rangers fans get pretty sick of watching when he was in charge across the city.
It's just 2 weeks ago that Sam Lammers and Gustav Lagerbielke were dancing in the touchline at Old Trafford. So if you're a Rangers fan, there's definitely hope there for you. I think that brings to the end of Monday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you for all your comments tonight. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Keith, once again, thanks very much.
Cheers now.
And thanks for watching at home.